So I think the point I was making was that this now, as young people grow up, the temptation is almost inbuilt.
Yeah.
That they kind of just sucked into any platform, and it changes, isn't it? I mean, when I came to the UK, it was like, what's Facebook? I was behind. I'm still behind because I was talking about earlier with the guys that I've not downloaded TikTok yet. So I'm not a TikToker. I've not used it ever. I've seen it, obviously we know what TikTok is. Don't worry, I know what TikTok is. I actually know it's the most downloaded app of 2021 in the whole world. But then it became Instagram. I discovered. I've still not done Snapchat as well, but and it's just that there's always a new one coming out, and there's always money to be made. Khurram, you were saying about the TikTok and the money and the sponsorships, and it's just like you want to be in this world, engrossed in this world.
And the more famous you get, you become a slave to the likes and the
shares,
and you get sponsorship.
I think that people become enslaved to the actual, the euphoria, the joy of doing it, of getting people to, follow, like, share, and just they want. So even if they got millions, think about that. If you made millions, okay, what do you do with your life now? What is your life if you're just online?
Longevity, you were saying you're not going to be 60 years old.
Exactly.
So as a normal job, you probably will work to your 65 or whatever it might be.
And the thing is, normal jobs, you're going to meet people, you're going to interact with people, you're going to have
real people.
You have to work part. You get in the world. How are you going to know anybody via the virtual world?
This is the problem that comes with social media. Then you get fake friends because people they're like, oh, I know this guy, he's making big money. Let me just go and reach out to him, like, you remember me? And then all of a sudden they have these big entourages. They probably don't even know half of them, but they sat there draining their money slowly, and then it becomes that sort of lifetime. And then if you think about how many people,
put your mic up.
How many of these people like commit suicide or they go into depression or have these mad life changes because you realize everything's fake. Nothing's real, and they realize there's no one actually
cyberbullying.
Because
the person wants the validation or the opinion of someone else.
I had a friend. He mentioned that his son was playing a game online, and he had a bit of a tiff, with somebody. I know it's football or these like what's that one?
Call of Duty,
Fortnite.
That's it. I don't know, honestly. And he had a knock on the door. There was two of the young lads outside the house, and they were like the young lad had got a bit cocky to come round and fight me. Here's where I live, kind of thing. And there was two lads knocking on the door wanting to fight.
The thing is, that's the world we live in now, right? Because these kids
it's crazy,
now,
it's dangerous.
These kids now are being admitted into hospital for addiction to games like Fortnite, games like Call of Duty, and so on. Whereas back in the day, like I said to you before, we used to go play football in the fields. Like we used to have find a Nokia 3210, but just go to the fields and come back at sunset, right? And that's it. And so it's a good point that Khurram made before about mental health, because I've seen some of these YouTubers when they first started off, when they were preaching Islam, they were doing these experiments in, for example, New York, people them praying salah in front of people.
I've seen one or two of those.
But they've changed. But compared to where they were back then, now they've massively had to change the way they do their videos, because they need to keep up with the trends. Because if they kept on just Islam, they knew they weren't going to get anywhere. So
a lot of these so-called Muslim YouTubers come quite, what we say, secular or just
very
just about.
Well, they're not able to say what they want to say.
Now they can't. Because
again, the popularity, or if this works, do that, and it's not about spreading the deen or showing Muslims.
Exactly. That's it.
I mean, I'm sure some are still, firm and or sticking to the principles, kind of thing. But I think that this is the temptation that okay, we want to do something good with social media, but you end up kind of get pulled in. I think earlier we said you just don't realize sometimes. And I actually read about one. He was quite famous. I don't want to mention any particular YouTubers, but I read about him because he was on the articles and stuff. And he went to depression. He lost his YouTube channel. He had like millions and millions of followers, and he started a new one. And he was doing all sorts. A Muslim guy, and then was he a Muslim anymore? And he went through a faith crisis. And you probably do. It's a very famous one, and it's a bit underground. He's a bit quiet now. I don't think he's very famous anymore. But again, it's that longevity. He went big, got the money, got everything, the fame. He was invited to all sorts of events and popularity. He was a popular figure in the world, not just Muslims. And now, where is he? It's scary to think that he's almost lost his faith.
It's very hard to get away from that life once you're in it. Very hard, because everyone knows you. Your face is everywhere. They know your life.
That's the struggle as well, I suppose. Earlier, and I'm not too savvy on this, but Khurram, you can maybe expand on this. What you mentioned, the metaverse, I think it's part of social media.
That's an airs topic.
Oh, it's an airs topic. Sorry,
I'm not very savvy on anything to do with
metaverse. What's this? Is this part of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, that's temptation. It's like, so you've got the metaverse now that Facebook are creating, and you know it's going to be a different universe to. So if you're not comfortable or happy in this life that we've got at the moment, you can go jump onto some metaverse. You can buy property there. You can buy
Isn't
land.
there a Spider-Man movie called The Metaverse?
Yeah, multiverse, something.
Multiverse,
yeah,
that's it.
multiverse.
Yeah, I've seen the ads for that on YouTube.
So that's just this is just gonna create a different web of problems, I think,
So
in
it's
the,
basically
in the younger
you can live a
generation.
life on a virtual world.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
just bored with your life.
So this is a question when a lockdown gatherings were happening with the boys.
Yeah.
We say this and we're like, okay, this is going to happen. It's coming.
Yeah,
this whole chip stuff and all that, you know, in
yeah.
the head is, do us Muslims now ethically it causes a lot of issues, but then do we need to keep up with the trends so we don't get left behind?
Yeah.
Or do we stick to, you know, our principles?
So
our
what's
religion?
the trend here that you're talking about?
So for example, like this chip that Elon Musk is creating, he's creating this chip you put in your head, and like it's meant, if you're blind, you're meant to be able to see.
He's put it into monkeys, hasn't he? Or
Yeah,
something like that. And I think
and
certain amount of
like
monkeys
for
have
kids, you
actually died.
can, and it's like helps you if you're like, for example, doing exams, you can like literally this chip that gives you knowledge like next level.
Sounds crazy. This.
And this is coming. People are going to have agreed to put it into them.
Wow.
So then it's a case of ethically, and then that means your life is tracked. They got you.
Yeah.
So you don't know who's listening to anything, that your conversations, whatever. So then it causes that issue is, do we as Muslims, does it fit into our religion, first of all? And second, do we ethically, is it right for us to get it? And if we don't, it's going to leave us behind.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, look, that's the advanced side of things. That's where life's going towards now, right? But are we not already in a system where we depend on banks? Like the banks literally run everything, right?
Yeah.
If you've not got a bank account, you've not got a good credit score. If you've not got a good credit score, you can't get a loan, you can't get a mortgage, you can't get a car, you can't get a mobile phone or anything. So we're already in that system. And this is where now the metaverse comes into it, the whole crypto, blockchain, all that stuff comes into it as well, where you know people want to take control of all of that and kind of step away from the banking system and decentralize it all. But again, it's pros and cons to both sides, right?
It is. I think, you know, where you're Zaner, it leads into the conversation of that new world order, the Jalik system, and, you know, we're being watched and controlled, and we don't even realize what's happening to us, and before you know it, we're, you know, dependent. You know, I think that we are. I think, to be honest, I thought we can't really break free of the system we're in.
Yeah.
Not many people can. I think it's still possible, but not for most people. I think we're too, even at this stage where you probably think could easily just, you know, get off and do stuff. I don't think most people can.
But how can you though? Like,
exactly.
If you've got a mortgage, you've got a wife and kids, you know, like, what do? You don't just like up and leave, and where would you go? Like, we are part of the system. And
we are, and that's the thing.
And
to Hassan's question as well, I think you can address that about, you know, keeping up with the times, and as Muslims, do we do all these things and stuff? Personally, not necessarily from an Islamic perspective, but personally, my own reading of Islamic history and my own kind of seeing how Muslims were over the many centuries that have passed and the developments. Look at Islamic Spain, for instance, and how they were well ahead of the whole of Europe. You know, and it was the Muslims that laid the platform for Muslim and non-Muslims, by the way, to develop and you know, be geniuses almost, right? And so many new ideas and concepts that were really realities in Baghdad and other places. But then you also see in the decline of the Muslims, or the environment that they had made in, especially in the Ottoman Empire. And one of the reasons for the Ottoman Empire was the fact that they didn't go to the printing press, because they didn't want to disrespect the Quran by stamping it, you know, literally banging it on the on the ink onto it. It was handwritten, and you know, the people were calligraphers, and it was which now it does occur. We got laser printing and whatnot, and they did eventually go into that, but the delay in taking that up was a delay in spreading ideas, communication, you know, and the Western secular, you know, whatever ideas that were there in Europe were you know, just thrown into the Muslim world, the Ottoman Empire in particular, in that part of the world, and it changed the way people think. So people think now, how did Turkey become, which is Turkey now, become so secular when it was an Islamic caliphate, and you know, this, that, the other? Well, there's a whole history behind it, and it was education, it was reading, it wasn't just somebody came in and said, let's change. You know, the ideas of people who changed over many generations, and this is the thing now. Do we get involved in this? Otherwise we get left behind, and then we get dominated and overpowered, and then you get, you know, the same problem. You have Turkey, which is a 99%, I'm reckoning, you know, Muslim country. Correct me on my statistics if I'm wrong. And you know, it's still a secular type of, it is a secular country, although I think the current leader may be trying to do certain different things, alhamdulillah. But that's the danger, that, you know, is that going to spread to our you know, families, our, if you think about the, you know, people are from these different countries, and what's gonna happen to us if we do, because we're globalized now as well. It was a case of, okay, that happened in Turkey, but it happened in all the rest of the world because they were all separate, and that was more like just divide and conquer and colonization, and it was one by one. Here now it's just globalized. Flick of switches, as they say, might decide the whole World War III and whatnot. So we live in a very dangerous time. To get to the point, I think we should keep up with the times, but we've got to be very careful. I think as I said, not just Muslims, I think everyone in this circumstance is very careful what they decide to do in terms of putting chips inside of you. And
the benefit that we have is that in the very short time that social media has been around, 15 years, let's say, maybe a little bit longer, already the world is almost, there's a portion of the world turning against social media and realizing the negatives of it. So no one's oblivious to it. So we would hope that in the next 15 years, there is constraint and there's some sort of structure to it, and people don't get carried away. Because for us, we were the first social media generation, the first people to see this and not know how to deal with it. And now you've got Facebook and Twitter limiting things and saying, well, you can't, do some background checks and you can't say certain things.
But there's been a lot of lobbying for that, actually.
That's it.
So governments and it's not happened because remember, these organizations, they're corporations. They for them it's money making capitalism, share of the market, whatnot, and many other industries as well. But they're regulated, like you said.
That's it.
And
I hope that
like you said, it's now moving that way. But there's a question, so please do send your questions. Then I want to ask this question to our guests. It says, do any of the guests play Fortnite?
No,
played it.
I play Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, that's even worse. No.
I've not done my PlayStation in about 4 years.
Mashallah. So I don't have a PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, whatever you call them. I know about them, but I don't have.
What's the context behind that?
The context is that we mentioned Fortnite earlier, if you remember. Okay. So I think somebody's asking. So there's a Call of Duty player, but on and off.
Well.
And another question is, also it's not a question, it's a comment. It says, Metaverse, you can go to Makkah and Medina too. That's the point, right? So the Metaverse, it's a virtual Makkah and Medina.
I didn't know you can do that.
Do you not see they did a demo?
So how really? So you're talking about Metaverse, which I think is a good topic because it's a very big temptation to be a part of that and spend your time in there, right? How real does it feel like? Is it, because I remember virtual reality headsets in the past.
Apparently it feels
like
very
10, 20 years ago.
I'm not actually
is it much more realistic now that you can put this on?
Apparently you're literally, it feels like you can feel like you're there. Is the feeling.
So they put the kind of, do you have to go into a room or is it just a headset?
Yeah, it's like a headset, and they give you like loads of like things. I think it's like things you put in your fingers.
Sensory or like sensory. So when you touch something,
immersed.
You feel it. Wow.
So they did one Saudi. I think I can't remember which sheikh it was now. And he was doing it like in the metaverse, touching the Kaaba, everything.
Wow.
And
Does
then
that count as an umrah then?
well, this is actually quite funny because on Twitter, there was people. There was someone saying, "Oh, this is a great way for poor people that can't do Hajj, doing Hajj." And there's people actually saying, arguing to say that this should count.
This should count.
Yeah, there was.
You put on a headset.
The thing is, Shaykh.
Around in your room.
But this is what it was on social media. So you've got so many people.
It's absurd to us, right? But the thing is, in these third world countries, someone will tell them that this is fine, and they will do it.
Not even third world. These people in the UK saying, "Oh, just because." And I remember there was an imam on Twitter. He said, "Look, let's not get carried away. You can't do it. You can't do Hajj, Yeah. And then there was people saying, "Oh, just because you've got the privilege to go doesn't mean you."
Wow.
And
so this is what I'm saying. The psychological aspect that people really start believing in this to be real or a replacement for reality, which is. It's more than a temptation. A topic is temptations, but I think it's more a need now, or massive, kind of.
I was speaking to someone recently, and I forgot who mentioned it, but they were talking about there was a woman that went into Metaverse, and she was just surrounded by guys, not in like any sexual or explicit way or anything, but
it's virtual anyway, right?
It's virtual, right? But one of them like hit her on the backside. But this is in the Metaverse,
and then you would feel that, right?
Yeah. Well, if you have the
sensories
or whatever, right? But I'm just talking, right? Do you then regulate the Metaverse the same way you regulate this world? Can people get done for rape? Can people get done for?
So can it be a crime? Can it be a cyber crime that the Metaverse?
Yeah, that's it.
See, this is how crazy.
There's a lot of problems.
But anyway, if you have your opinion on the Metaverse or any questions, then please do send them in for the guys here. So let's talk about something a bit different. Social media is just like I said. We could carry on and on. If you've got anything,
I was speaking to someone recently actually, and they told me basically. So come back to temptations. For now, obviously we're not females on this, but someone said, "What's a guy's perspective from your perspective?" There was a girl and basically getting Rista proposals, and she's a doctor, very well, qualified, comes from a good background, but she had 3 Rista proposals rejected because she was hijab. So then she tempted to take her hijab off because it's causing her a lot of stress. And someone said to me,
because she now had the rejection
from a guy's
because of
perspective,
it.
how can why would you say? How would you feel if someone said that to, like your sister? Or would you ever think? Did you ever think about that when you're getting married? Do you want to get married to someone that wears hijab or not hijab? And it's a temptation, then, isn't it? Is first of, I mean, from us.
That's an interesting one. That's a very interesting one. Because I think that was a topic we'd have got into about relationships and the temptations now because of social media itself. People messaging over Messenger and Instagram and basically doing haram. I mean, two people shouldn't be communicating in that way privately, in that way as in personal relationship and asking, talking, chatting, and it needs to be chaperoned. It can be done. We're not saying it's completely haram if it's known to people and they're aware and it's families involved. But that's the problem, that we are just, it's a free for all, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no regulation again of that. And how can you regulate? You can't regulate private messages at the end of the day. People choose to do that. But going back to your point, Hassan, about the sister, may Allah bless her. It's a challenge. I mean, the simple answer to her, which sounds simple, but it's tough for the person on the receiving end, is to uphold her values and stick with the hijab. And you don't want to marry the guys that are rejecting you for hijab. So why would you take it off to get somebody who accept you with that hijab? That's a bit contradictory.
The thing is, it's a lot of times, even sometimes it's the mother-in-law to be, or she'll be like, it doesn't fit in with the modern times, or where we live, it's not right, it's looked down upon. And then she said, so this person said to me, look, what's your opinion on it as a guy? And I was like,
what is your opinion on it?
My opinion, to be fair, obviously when you study and stuff like that, is when I was going into the proposal and stuff like that, I wanted someone that wore hijab. So obviously upheld the religious values and did at least the bare minimum. So I could never have imagined saying to someone, oh, don't wear hijab, because it doesn't fit in with where we are. Even if you go out, I mean, I'm from Scotland. When my mum first started wearing hijab, people.
Where's your accent?
Yeah, well, we've discussed this before. And people, when my mum first started wearing hijab, people used to come to the shop and say to her, "Oh, is your husband forcing you to wear that?"
Wow.
My mum was like, "No, I've decided now that I want to start wearing the headscarf because it's my religious obligation."
It's a tough one because I mean, some people won't wear hijab, but we say it's their choice, and Allah, give us all strength to follow the religion of Islam as best we can. But that is there, and you will find people who practice that. But we have to remember the values that we have from our religion, from the Prophet ﷺ, and our teachings, whether we adhere to them or not. I mean, people know us pray 5 times a day and so forth. But what we cannot do, which is the point made you're mentioning, is we cannot say it's backwards and it's people, the times have moved on. So don't need for hijab. We don't need to pray 5 times a day. Fasting. Fast, make food. It is crazy because where does it end? Where does it stop? It becomes like religion is not even an important thing anymore. It's not even secondary. It's just literally on the periphery. It's just if you want to do it, do it. If you don't, So what's our identity in a sense? So it's very scary that like I said in that very example, that why would you, if you are upholding those values, want to take the hijab off or change yourself and become less practicing as a Muslim, or less kind of adherent to the values of Islam to get a rishta or somebody who's probably gonna tomorrow, the family, like you're saying, the mother-in-law and stuff, influence your family, your children, your future in that negative way, because that's already been shown to you. So it's alarm bells. But I do understand that there's people that may not practice, and but it's a scary concept that we're generally going in that direction.
But it goes back to obviously when you're looking for someone, you think as we all know, as Muslims, you look at religion first, but that's not the case. We all know that all the time. But then you've got someone who's practicing, wears a hijab, probably prays 5 times a day, and and then she's a doctor, but because it ticks every single box apart from wears hijab. And that's just strange. For me, when I heard that, I was like, well, she's dodged a bullet to start off with.
She's been lucky to not.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like someone coming to us saying you've got a beard.
But do you know the problem I've realized is they get the girls because there's a second rejection for a similar reason, and she's like, oh, but it really gets them. It's not, they don't think that way.
On that very point, sorry, and guys, you guys married here? Everyone's married here, yes? Okay, you can tell your stories if you want. But no, I was going to mention on that very point. You said, the second rejection. I know brothers and some sisters actually that I've been to 10, 15, 20 in the past. Not like young lads. I mean like people are married, got children, and they don't look back at it, or they don't talk about it like I was getting depressed and I was this and I was that. It was just a process. Whether it was number 10, 12, 15, you're 50, you know, maybe
maybe when you get to 10 years,
but,
like, you know,
yeah,
it is what it
but
is.
you know, I think there's this element of, and it is a big thing, a big topic. We have touched on it a few times, the mental health aspect, or the lack of resilience. Let's not talk about mental health necessarily, but the lack of resilience, I think, in people in general. And we break down quicker, which goes back to the social media, the communication, the online. You know, I think, like you said, we go out and play football, or we used to, and we still do play football, but you know, it was the norm. Everyone just went out. Now it's like, oh, I'm worried to go outside. Is there everything okay? And it is worrying.
There is a lot of
degree,
anxiety for people to go out. Yeah,
there's anxiety, isn't it? You mentioned earlier about you in the supermarket. I can't remember.
Yeah, about
exactly.
there was two young girls, and I overheard them having a conversation about them being so anxious about something. Like, and I just thought to myself, like, at that age, I had no anxiety. Well, I didn't even know what anxieties were. Like, I was out and about on the football field playing football, and you come home, and then that's it, and then repeat the next day, go to school, come home, play football. But
you know, one thing I will say is it's important we recognize that it does exist, and
yeah,
we're not trying to belittle it with what you're saying, and we're not saying that at all. But it's a big concern. I think it's a really important thing that we realize that there's something causing this.
That's exactly it. But at that age now, because again, the age that we were at when we were like obviously younger and playing football and so on and so forth.
I firmly believe it's the social media.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
firmly believe
there's a lot to do with
the way we interact and, you know, the communication.
Yeah, exactly.
And screens.
That's
where I think actually
to.
a lot of them people, like younger generation, have been allowed to believe it's okay to be a snowflake. In terms of a snowflake is people that take everything like to heart. They have no resistance. You say one thing to you, give them even the smallest bit of criticism. It's like they've been allowed to think that what they want, and if anything that's wrong that they do, it's not wrong. It's okay.
So basically, you know, anything goes wrong in their life, they're gonna break down.
Yeah. So it's like
they're gonna.
I know a lot of young people as well, like you're saying, and I was like, when we were young, when I was at uni, I was working every weekend through the week. I helped my dad out at the shop. And I was doing my uni and I was doing another course at the same time and all that. And these kids these days, you say to them, oh, they're like, oh, I got no money. So work part-time. Oh, uni's just so hard. I was like, 2 days a week.
Yeah, but don't.
It's difficult. I've got so much problems in my life. What problems?
Yeah, yeah.
And it is there. So I'm not belittling it, saying it's not. There's a reason for it, but it's hard to fathom because we've come from a completely different experience. And it's
the thing is, at the moment we live in a society where it's the you can't tell me what to do society.
Yes.
It's like, and that's guys and girls, not just girls by themselves, but it's guys as well. Like, you know, growing up now, it's like, you can't tell me what to do. Whereas back in the day, and maybe it's a bit more cultural driven as well, as in like, you know, we had that instilled into you. You know, if someone elder said something to you, you take it on the chin.
I think that was a culture everywhere. It's not like maybe us, as in, you know, maybe
you respected the elders.
I think that way, wherever you were, there was a lot more discipline. And things were regulated for you, and you had to go with it, and it was good for you because it gave you discipline. I think that's kind of linked to what Hassan's saying, that as you grow older, young people get older now, they don't have discipline. They're fully into the dunya. It's desires. It's just they're following desires every day. Every day you get up, literally what they do for the whole day is fulfill their desires. Whether it's whether it's indulgence in food, whether it's with somebody else, whether it's there's no time where we sit down and just have a calm time, if you like, or just think about yourself and regulate yourself. And the biggest concern with that for me as a Muslim is Islam is all about discipline. 5 daily prayers. It's about taking that time out and stopping the world and just putting on pause for Allah. It's Ramadan, which is coming up. It's fasting. This number one thing about fasting is controlling your desires and discipline. And even when you go on Hajj, you have to make so many sacrifices, get out of your comfort zone. So you look at the acts of worship, you have charity, give away your wealth and don't hold on to it. That's a nafs breaker, as we call it. It's killing you. Giving away my hard earned money, I earned this. Well, yes, that's the whole idea. You got to go against your nafs. And I feel that everything in the society now is just really detrimental to us in that journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in that process of becoming better people. And we don't realize it. So it's really scary to think how the next generation is really going to be when they grow up, and the maturity process, and they will come around hopefully, but the pattern of it coming around, the length of it coming around, and how we get there, we got to figure it out.
But you
it's
see
changed
a lot more though. You say that it's going to hopefully get better, but what I see now is
getting worse.
it is, and especially social media, it is so bad for it, because there's certain things that back in the past you would never imagine. Like, you would never imagine people non-halal relationships on social media. these days people think it's okay because everyone's doing it. I'm not doing anything wrong. You know, it's just my partner. It's fully normalized, and no one. And it's other things are becoming normalized.
I've had to tell people why you put on your status for, and do you understand that's a bit too much? Is a bit wrong, and they don't. Right, 100%. I know I can relate to that 100%. It's unfortunate, but I think we see other people doing it. You know, we see it just becomes common, and then, like you said earlier, you just don't realize that I think you said it, and you don't realize you just changed without knowing.
You believe it's
that's,
okay.
That's the dangerous thing, because if you know you're changing and you realize it's wrong, it's not okay, but it's better than not having any awareness, like oblivious, heedless. Because that you may feel guilt in that you realize you got a shortcoming, or you're doing something wrong, when you don't even feel it. That is alarm bells.
This is the difference with us. I say us, Generation Y. Well, we've seen non-social media life and social media life. We can see the disadvantage of it. The people who are born into the social media life, so we say that they experience anxiety because all of their private life is no longer private. It's never been private, because for us, we chose to, we're going to join Facebook now at the age of 15. These guys from the age of 10 have to stand up to the school kids and show what they're up to, what they've got.
Their social circles.
They have no choice, so they are going to be more anxious because they have a completely different life.
So it's a temptation to follow a crowd.
For us to say at the age of 30 or 40 to say, it's all just to delete your Instagram, but they can't do that because without a social media presence, you essentially don't exist.
Nothing. Yeah, exactly.
That's the sad thing, and it strips you of your morals and values because you have to give in to these little values to succeed on social media.
So, guys, we were talking about the relationships, or lust, whatever you call them, and the desires we have as human beings, male and female, and put a scenario out there for you all, and let's see what you think. So there's a guy flicking through Facebook or Instagram these days, or Snapchat, whatever, and there comes a young lady, or there comes a young man. It works both ways. And where's she from? He from? And they're like, I don't know how much details you can get or whatever, but you can get enough. Or same city roughly. Or just try to send a random message. Somebody told me there's some guys that literally send message to everybody. Just go down sending messages and they wait for replies. So I'm pretty sure that happens. It doesn't sound
is DM
out
game
of this
strong?
World. Yeah, that's it. It doesn't sound out of this world. It sounds very realistic, unfortunately. And be careful of those guys. You don't know them, so you don't know. But then a conversation starts. So what do we do? What's going to happen here?
We can't progress via social media and all these facilities and not expect this to happen as well, because this is the most easiest form of communication nowadays. Instant messaging is what people can't wait for a reply.
So in the past, what you're saying was you had to work harder to get the number.
You have to speak to people. You have to actually speak to people as well.
You
have to speak to people, and we used to have.
I think that devalues the whole process, doesn't it? Like, if you can just send a DM, whatever, right? And you can get a conversation going.
When someone's read it, someone's seen it.
It's a game almost, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the past, it was a bit of, I'm being a bit funny in that sense. Not Muslims don't go and get the numbers off others, but it was a process.
You have to speak to
or in the Muslim world, it was speak to the parents, or the community knows. You gotta talk to somebody. There's no medium like mobile phone.
There's
and a
no
screen.
value to it, because
you had to go physically and do something. So it kept a lot of harm at bay, didn't it?
But even the marriage process now is like, you got the apps now. Like, literally, you can just keep scrolling through pictures and pictures and pictures.
The apps, yeah.
No, I'm not going to mention the name of the apps.
But I'm shocked to. So I didn't know about this. Honestly didn't know about this, but it's crazy, these apps, and what you get through. It's just unbelievable. I'm shocked how easy it is now.
Put a caveat in there that I actually met my wife on one of these apps.
Yeah.
No,
we have a
online here.
There
are success
stories. This was very early on in the process when these apps started, and everyone was kind of looking into it.
We have a service here, although it's not app based, it's online. It's called Sacred Vows. It's something that I helped set up, and it's doing pretty well now. It's had its teething issues, it's been going on for a while, and it's actually a decent process now, and many people have got married through it. So I'm not trying to knock the whole concept. Like you said, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't get rid of social media. You can't get rid of this communication. We've got to start giving the alternatives, and our system in Sacred Vows is what we'd call, and there are other actually, we're not unique in this sense, but Sharia compliant in the sense that we always try and make sure there's parental or chaperonal involvement. There's some other person who from both families that know what's going on. And as soon as we find out there isn't, or somebody's going to bypass, because they can always lie, unfortunately, right? You can't detect lies on algorithms and forms, right? The people lying to them, unfortunately. And there was only a couple of few, I think, that have ever been caught. So we try and regulate as well to make sure that if you're going to use our service, it has got the family involvement. But that was the kind of my point, that in the past we had it was the norm. Now that this system I'm telling you about with Sacred Vows and a few other maybe websites or organizations or platforms, it's not the norm, and people don't want to go into, like, their children might be doing all of this privately, DMing and everything, and they're not okay with it, but they know it's going on, yet they're not willing to say, right, okay, there's actually a platform which is modern, it's got a way of working, let's use it. But you did use it, which mashallah is brilliant, and you found someone, so why not?
There is people with the right intention on there, doing the right thing, but then
people
ruined by
what I'm
the
trying to say is people look down at that process. Well, the alternative, which is actually going on, is not worse. So rather than look down at it, and alhamdulillah, like you said, and many people have been married through Sacred Vows and other services, I think we should start promoting it and actually generally saying, look, this is the norm, this has to be what we do, not necessarily Sacred Vows are not promoting it, but any platform that is as Sharia compliant as possible, which there's no, it's like they say 100% Sharia compliant. Like since when has there been 90%? It's always 100. It's either compliant or not. So they say 100%.
It's like halal, isn't it?
It's like 100. It's like 90% halal. What's that? It's 100% halal, 100% compliant. So it is compliant in the sense that we make sure as much as possible nobody is communicating without at least 2 other people knowing from both sides. That's the minimum we endeavor.
That's
to
the main complaint that I hear of family or sisters who struggle on these apps, is that they get random messages and rude messages, and, explicit messages.
Messabouts.
Whereas the one thing that can solve that is what you do.
So we have this system where if somebody is literally just requesting bang bang bang, it alerts us, right? This person has sent
going on,
100 requests in the space of this much time. They limit the account, so there's a limit anyway. So that's the thing, that it's got a bit more regulation than the other ones, because the other ones I think it's a free.
That's what
social media or a marriage app. It's the same thing.
It is a temptation, though, isn't it? Like for men and female both, the opposite gender is it's a temptation. So you, especially these days with Instagram, you present a side of you that you want everyone to see. And that people, it is literally like that. I take about 100 pictures of my wife before one gets posted. Honestly, it's the worst thing ever. But it's, you see things and you're like, wow, this person's living this life, or they look really good or whatever. And it's it suits what I'm looking for, or let me message this person, and then all of a sudden you get that reply.
But you get these YouTube couples, these influencers, like the YouTube. Then people watch these couples and think this is what a life should be like. This is how we should be living life. But then when you read the news separately, they're either getting divorced or they've got problems, or it's not, the grass isn't greener on the other side. That's another one of the issues, and that could be one of the main reasons for a breakdown of a marriage as well.
Don't give too much people access, innit?
That's what it's all about, access, because everyone can see everything about you. Fine, it's your CV. It's your, you used to have people. Everyone knows an uncle who can find someone out about another family, but now you can Google their name and find out everything.
I've known people that not got jobs because of their social media profiles, and people have lost jobs probably because of their social media profiles. I don't know about that one, but it happens, and it's the danger, because this is the temptation today, to put your life out there, to get the like, to show it. I think it's a good thing in some ways, because you can share things and benefit people, and you can learn. Like, people can't go to Makkah, Medina, now they can see it. Okay, they can't do the Hajj. I don't. Let's not go back there again. But at least they can see it in reality. I was saying earlier about myself watching the videos on nature and the hikes, and I love watching them. Seeing, I want to go there.
You can do that in the metaverse.
I want to see. No, I don't want to do the metaverse. I want to. So that's the thing. It's how you use it. Personally, I look at it to see the routes and where to go, and I'm gonna go there myself, because I know you don't want to miss out on the highlights, because you're on a trek. There's the new ones, and you kind of think, like, you want to make the most out of it. So if you just go up and down and this one route, and okay, it's actually interesting and amazing, but if you watch a video, you can think, I'm going to go there first. I'm going to go there. There's this to watch here. Go around this way. There's a different way to climb up. You can experience a lot more. So it does help. But I don't think, I don't sit there thinking, right, I'm going to go on a walk and put my visual thing on and, stay at home and or stand up and start walking at home or something. I could imagine doing that. It'd be like depressing to do that, I think, right? Like to think I've done a walk by just putting myself in the metaverse. You know?
Yeah.
It's not the same, is it?
So yes, I think that it's really something we need to. We can't, and this is with everything in life. You can't necessarily get rid of everything or get rid of the the whole process or the what's going on. But we need to regulate it. We need to put parameters in place. We need to educate. I think you said that earlier about the social media, and I think we're only learning that now. We're only
they're doing it in
coming to
schools
that.
now.
Yeah,
So it's something.
there needs to be a lot more education on how to use these platforms and safety, and there is of course, but it needs to be a lot more. And with every app, I think as we move forward, like we mentioned TikTok before, it's a massive app, isn't it? But I think with such things, I think personally, before they even be put out there should be education. Like, this is going to be an app, it's going to do this. If it gets popular, you've already educated people on there. Or if it's becoming popular, you think, this app's getting really popular, right? As governments, as policymakers, as people in the local governments, councils, we need to put the education, the training, the awareness, so that those who use this app are safe, or at least don't get taken in too much. It's really important.
The funny thing about TikTok I read recently was that it's a Chinese-based app, right? They developed it, right? So in the eastern side, like all China and so on, that the type of videos that have been pushed over there are more like educational videos, like engineering, that type of stuff. Whereas the western side, you get all these like dancing videos and that type of stuff. So it seems down the west, whereas the east side is just like becoming.
It's not that hard to do, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, it's not.
It is a resource though if you use it the right way. Beneficial.
But like some people, business like people have launched their businesses through TikTok, and they've actually got quite a lot of revenue through it, because it's a massive platform for a lot of
course,
based businesses. So I mean, social media does have its good side, without a doubt. Shaykh, I wanted to bring up another point, and it just come to my head now, is coming back to temptations. Is when for example, you've got your circle of friends, now if all my friends have fat whips, very nice cars, and I'm there sat with that temptation to go, forget my responsibilities, and like get a house or whatever, forget the bigger picture, let me go get a nice car so I can be like my boys. And that's a big
I'm thinking, I could get a nice car,
but you see it all the time. A lot of lads now, they're like,
upgrade.
I live with my mum and dad, it's fine. The mortgage, dad's paying mortgage, all my income, I'm gonna blow it on fancy shoes.
And you see a lot of young lads, they nice cars, mashallah. You think, wow, what do you do?
We need to be taught on financial.
And he lives in a 2-bed terraced house. He's got a £70,000 car.
And
the house is worth about £80,000.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a temptation, because you go, do I look like, for now? Let me, when I'm young, for now, let me forget and this, that'll come, inshallah. Let me get my responsibilities, either help mum and dad with the house.
I think ladies are in the same situation. To be honest,
nowadays it's so easy to get cars, finance and
finance
so on,
and stuff,
and that's the biggest problem.
And that
the finance.
Another portal, and like interest, getting loans out, and drugs. Like for the younger generation, like people seem the young generation have nice cars. I'm not saying that it is linked to drugs.
A lot of times, it is.
A lot of time, the culture can be that the car and the drugs come together.
Exactly.
The environment,
and then
the people that are doing it.
Then it pushes the young generation towards drugs. And then you've got certain spots within Manchester, for example, where it's just youngsters driving around nice cars, dealing in drugs, and then it's that's what's being promoted in that certain area.
And then those young lads and maybe young ladies that grow up around that, in that particular neighborhood, or their older brothers, uncles, they see this as young people, like 10, 12, 14-year-olds. They're gonna see that as the norm, and when they grow up, they're gonna be like, I want that, I want the car, I want this, that, the other. It's crazy how young people know so much about cars and the wheels and the engine sizes and this, that, the other. When I was young, I barely knew the make of the car, right? Like Toyota and Nissan, and that was it, right? And Honda, the Jap cars, right? It was the classics, the Datsun Stanzas and the Corollas and stuff like that. Now it's like it's crazy. The temptation of cars is a massive
taught
temptation.
how to save money or spend money properly in school, and that's something you see on social media now. This is a good way of saving. Well, no one teaches you that when you're 15. That would help. And then you realize that it was stupid for me to buy a car, £1,000 a month, and £750 goes on a car. That doesn't add up. But these things you're not taught, and then sometimes it's too late. You get into a financial agreement for 5 years, you can't afford it. You're not borrowing money. You're in debt. You're starting your life, say 21. When you finish uni, you're starting your life in debt, massive debt.
But you got this of a student loan, and
but
that cultures you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I would taking a loan. People take extra loans, whatever. It's not hard to take the next one.
It's very easy to get money.
The culture is built up. The debt culture.
It's a spiral. because there's no way out of that.
But
until
just on that
someone
point you were
helps
mentioning, I was thinking that, you know, buy cars and you grow up, but our parents and even previous generations, they had this awareness of money management, of responsibilities to their children, of, you know, understanding that you don't need a fancy car. You know, they didn't have the desire. Look at them. Some of them could have. And most of them got the reliable car. That was what it was about. It's about reliability.
How long it can last.
Exactly. Long as it's driving and lasting, which is why I went for the Japs, the Jap cars. That's what they went for, you know. And now it's like, you know, whatever the fastest, the most popular, it's brands, isn't it? Now it's not even about reliability. You know, you'll pay whatever it costs to fix it, or, you know, maintenance package comes with it, or something.
It comes back to that temptation then, isn't it? It's a case of back then, I mean, I'll speak to my parents' side. My dad got paid. My granddad took the money. But that's it. You know, go towards a house and stuff like that. And you know, you keep this amount. But you know, they did the right thing to help towards the house. You know, bills, everything. Now for us, our parents, alhamdulillah, they never ask a penny from us. My mum and dad never asked a penny. So then it comes to me. It goes, okay, I've got this money now. I'm earning money. I'm still living. When I was living with mum and dad, do I blow it, or do I go buy the nice trainers because my boys is going out, he's getting them kicks, I want them kicks? Or do you know what, he just went and bought a new car. My car's about, you know, 5 years old. You know, it's not as fast as his, and I want that nice car. Now, growing up, you get a bit more mature. Inshallah, it's the same for everybody else, and you start to realize, actually, when I get married, if my wife's going to say, oh, you've got all these nice shoes, but buy me a house. I don't want to live with your mum and dad. You know, and this is a big thing these days. Like, they're like, I don't want to live with your mum and dad. I want to buy me a house. And you're like, actually, no, I can't. Here, sell all my trainers. Your money from there. But it's a temptation, isn't it?
But somebody was telling me the other day, some trainers sell big, you know,
big money.
You guys were telling me, you and Fahim, there's a big money in trainers.
Just a disclaimer. Before I got married, I had to sell my Balenciagas.
What they?
Exactly. I had to sell them before getting married because I needed money. I needed money in it. No, it was the runners. They were the ones that were in at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, because I needed money to get married. But it is that, because when I was young,
I never thought. I never, honestly, when I was young, I never thought you'd buy shoes and you sell them later in life because they're popular or they're fancy or
they hold value. Some trainers.
We used to buy trainers and just wear them to the ground. They used to be like things hanging off them, and we used to still.
But back in the day, those trainers like Jordans, like Air Force Ones and stuff like that, like we thought they used to hold no value, right? But now they're quite expensive, like the Jordans and stuff like that. So even trainers are becoming expensive. Like,
but the trainers we buy, you used to be able to buy them for 30 quid. Them same trainers now is the £50. So they're not cheap to start off with.
And that does link into what we're talking about, in the sense that it's become a temptation to the money side of it, or even the notoriety of having that particular pair, because you guys are telling me that there's some rare editions, and if you've got
for
them,
thousands of pounds,
the price will go up. And even some people don't sell them, just want to hold on to them because it's rare. You know, it's like something you wear on your feet and you walk around, you know, whatever. But
we think that, you know, and then but some people, there's people actually have businesses just for selling trainers. And I mean, they make good money out of it. But then people that can't afford the real ones, you go better New Road, innit? So then you're portraying a life that it's not you, isn't it? It's a fake lifestyle. And then you see a lot of people that are like, mate, your trainers are worth more than your car. What are you doing? Now, not being judgmental, but it's like, you know, like, have some.
It's just keeping up appearances, isn't it?
That's exactly.
You know, you see some articles online sometimes where, like, there was one social media influencer who bought an economy class ticket, but she went to the business class seat to take a picture. She took the picture, put it on Instagram. Everyone thought, she's, you know, sat in business class, but then someone within the economy class took a picture of her sat there in her actual seat.
Wow,
exposed and posted it online. So, like, it's just again.
That's
a good side of social
deception,
media.
isn't it?
Exactly. That's it. You know, but it's that deception that's creating these anxieties in the younger generation, because they're like, oh God, she's sat in business class, or he's sat in
at the age of 23.
At the age of 23, so what am I doing wrong? I'm 23. Why am I not sat in business class?
And then it's temptation that, and then you realize nobody sits in business class.
And then you look for quick money kind of schemes and whatever can get you quick money, or Ponzi schemes appear and things like that. And
I think that's the temptation. We talked about it quite a bit. I think that's part of what we're talking about. But just generally, or in particular, sorry, the get rich quick
Yeah.
idea. I think that's a big thing now in our communities.
Don't delay, claim today.
Yeah, everybody wants to just.
But that's why everyone's jumping on YouTube and
You know,
social
yeah,
media
that's what we're
because
talking about.
they
If
want,
you
they
do go
don't want to go
viral,
down
then you will be
education.
You
millionaire.
made it. Yeah,
They
you
want to
made
go
it.
down YouTube because it's true though. If
And some
someone,
people say, if I just get a living out of it, I'll be happy.
But you'll be a
But
millionaire.
you always
if
want
go
more.
viral.
exactly.
You
If you do
always
well,
want more.
That's it, yeah.
You always want more,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just, the thing is, wherever you are, you always want more. That's human nature.
yeah, that's it exactly.
But but to think that you can make a living out of these schemes. So it's not just YouTube. There's many other things like invest in this and Bitcoin now. They're using Bitcoin to sell this get quick rich. I think everything is just get rich quick through property investment, get rich quick through Bitcoin, get rich quick through this. I'll sell you this business plan. I used to come across these ads all the time, and I remember one actually bought the book because I was like, what's his plan? It's a book. I thought I'd read it. Basically the book tells you is do what I'm doing. Tell people how to make the money.
So
And that's what they are.
scheme,
That's actually what they are. Tell people how to make money, which is just to write this book and sell it on. So he sold hundreds
And he's
of
making
millions
the
of
money.
copies. And he's making the money. So he says basically just do that. You're not going to sell anything
No.
other than the concept of making money.
we talk about
That's
morals.
really what it is.
Yeah.
Morals and values, and this is another thing: the value of hard work. Get debt free. Once you're debt free,
Exactly.
start saving.
Yeah.
Save a little bit, save more. Get a better job. That's how it's supposed to work, and then you will have
Yeah.
old
enough
school.
money.
Yeah, that's.
But then people don't want to do that because
That's
it's just too
reality.
long term. It's 10 years, 15
And it's too
years.
much hard work.
Yeah,
it's
too much
too
hard
People
hard.
don't
That's
want
the thing,
that
it's too
hard
hard
work.
Yeah.
And that's the crux of the matter, that you think that you can skip all the reality of like you said, managing your money, hard work, time, dedication, long term commitment, and this any kind of scheme, whether it's online, whether it's somebody's the pyramid scheme, what they call it,
Ponzi schemes,
the pyramid schemes. There was a famous one in Bradford, and then it spread across the UK, and they're legal by the pyramid schemes, but they always kind of adjust the particular kind of methodology to make it legal and stuff. But it's come back to the same thing. Everybody just wants ease in their lives, and they're not, just
Willing
want
to work.
just enjoyment and entertainment. And the real, actually, I will say, and it's important to talk about this aspect of temptation and enjoyment, if you like. The real joy in life you will only achieve after hard work. Real joy in life, and like I said, you're married, inshallah, and you all got children as well.
I've got 2 kids.
MashaAllah. So inshallah you'll understand that when you have marriage and the spouse in the first place, but also the children and the joy you have in spending time with them, and the wider family. When you get married, you have brothers and sisters-in-laws, or you have an extended family, and you realize it's hard work to deal with all of that, but it brings happiness into one's life, true happiness, joy and sense of like purpose and belonging with people, because that's what we want. We want to be loved by people. But the people that really love us are our families, our children, and especially children. That's why I'm saying children, because they love mom and dad, and you love them in a way that is very strong and deep. And out there in the world, nobody wants to stay at work most of the time. They want to come home. Right? Nobody wants to be out there all the time. You want to be with people that make you feel happy, that love you, respect you. And as soon as you find, even a mate, as soon as you find out your mate's not really into you, not really care about you, he's just using you, what happens? Friendships break down at the end of the day. True friends are the same. It's hard work to make the true friendship. So I think we want to enjoy life. I think it's normal to want to have pleasure in people and in things around you, but there's no pleasure if you can't share it with genuine people around you. Like even if you have a meal by yourself, it tastes nice, okay, but you would enjoy a million times more if you had the company with
the
you.
right company,
right, exactly, the right company. And the food doesn't matter, it's the company that matters. Have a sandwich or a steak, or you could have biscuits and tea. It doesn't matter. The company is what matters. It's really about that. And I think we're losing those values. I think people are being given the temptations to it's gratification more than anything else, right? It's just that enjoyment and that hit. It's that's what it is. Whether it's taking drugs, because that's a temptation you talked about a bit earlier, whether it's about the social media, whether it's about get rich quick, or the money coming in, because once the money comes in and they start hitting all these targets or whatever, business, whatever, it's just enjoyment or the hit, the feeling of that. But at the end of it all, it just stops. It's finished, it's gone. And then that idea of anxiety, or how you feel internally in your mind, it doesn't help. Whereas that doesn't happen if you have a genuine relationship with people and you work hard, I mean, in your workplace, if you actually work and you have good company there and you're doing your job and you're trying to do the best, you respect your colleagues, you respect the system, you feel actually, I'm doing something that I enjoy, or it's contributing to society, or it's helping in some way. So I think we really need to rewire the next generation and ourselves to some degree, remind. But I don't think, like we're saying, I think it's a common theme, we're all agreeing on this. Don't think the young people know this anymore. They don't have this line of thinking that we're going to grow up to struggle to raise a family, or struggle in the sense of work hard and sacrifice. Not like it's going to be tough, like financially or something, but yeah, it may be tough. It may be other challenges. They don't have that. I think they think life's just going to go all, like a hunky dory, and it's just going to be plain sailing.
I think for them, the dunya is becoming so much more tempting to live in, as in like the way the world's going at the moment, like the metaverse, or like cars, quick money.
You can do whatever you want. You get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's becoming so tempting, and people living for the dunya as opposed to thinking about the akhirah, which is, I'm not saying that's just a younger generation. Obviously, there are people in our generation as well that are doing the same thing, and it's just about trying to find out.
Coming on to that point, so another temptation that I had in my mind to come in here is the temptation of the ego. So when I've been the 3 years at GH, you guys are doing 2 years. Sometimes when you start studying a little bit, and you get that little bit of knowledge.
What's that?
The Isnad studies, guidance.
So you studied 3 years on the courses. Guidance
3 years studying the Isnad studies.
And how was that?
Alhamdulillah, it was really good. Really good. Miss Shaykh Waseem.
Would you recommend others?
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. If Shaykh Waseem comes, definitely come. And obviously Shaykh Waseem is going to be here all the time as well, so you're in good hands.
So I'm year 1, he's year 2, and you're year 3.
No, he's only year 3.
I've done year 3. But it's, so I was talking with Fahim, our long lost member, that sometimes, you get a little bit of knowledge, the temptation to think I'm better than somebody else, because you're going, do you know what, I've studied, you've not. And then then you always have that temptation to correct people, or so that to try and make you feel like that you know and they don't.
Yeah.
And that sometimes it creeps in when you start. Obviously, if you have the right intentions, with the scholars, as they always say, we know nothing. We know nothing. We still know nothing. But then sometimes when some of us, we start studying a little bit, and you go, do you know what, I know more than you. Let me teach you. But who am I to say? I've learned the base, not even the basics, don't even touched upon them yet. But it creeps into your head, that temptation to think like that.
So it's like a temptation to lead and dominate others.
Yeah.
In the religion,
but yeah, you literally know nothing.
Or in a good way, but it's actually, you're overstepping the mark a bit. Yeah. I think the temptation of leadership and dominating and being powerful, the alpha male, I think for men especially, I think for a lot of females as well, it's a big problem. It's a big disease. That's actually one of the diseases of the heart in Islamic. It's not talked about often actually, but it's called hubb al-riyasa, love of leadership. And they actually say it's the toughest one. If you want to know what the toughest one was, you just mentioned it. The toughest disease of the heart to get rid of is the love of being in power and control, love of leadership. And they say it's the last one. This is what actually I read about this and heard it from many teachers as well, to be honest. This is the last thing to come out of the heart of the pure soul, and the true worshipper of Allah is love of leadership.
Yeah,
it's the last thing to come out, because it's tough, that one, because we all want to dominate or be irresponsible, and it's not the sense of always a negative thing. We find that sometimes it's like, if I'm not in charge, things are gonna go wrong.
Yeah.
So I've got to stay in charge, control freak, right? Yeah. But, things like that. So there's people, but it's a disease of the heart. It's definitely a temptation that's very big. I just want you to comment out, and if you do want to, for those watching on the live stream, you want to share a comment or anything, ask a question, please do. Especially to our guests, it's nice to have Khurram and Zunair with us today, and our golden oldie and Hassan. So a brother called Shiraz says, great discussion, but a lot of technology has many pitfalls. Totally agree, Shiraz. The metaverse being a prime example. A false reality will leave many even more depressed and unable to deal with real life. I think that's actually kind of what we're saying, but it's very succinctly and very articulately said there by Shiraz. I think, dealing with real life situations, people are lost.
Speaking to people,
I was actually I was reading something. I was reading it was a book actually, and it was talking about this concept of resilience we're talking about earlier, and what do you do in difficult situations, and this virtual reality and stuff. And it said that a young man, he missed his train. I'll ask you the question: if you were like going from Manchester to London and you missed your train, you're at the train station, what would you do?
Wait for the next one.
Let's get the next one.
If the next one, look at the timetable, ask the porter or
Yeah.
whatever
Find
what's
out
going on, right?
planning.
Check your app check your app or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. What do you think he did?
Went home.
He found his mom. So we laugh at it, right? But he's mentioning it as like this is not uncommon
He doesn't know
anymore.
what to do.
Like they don't know what to do, right? Yeah, I read about Richard Branson, was, entrepreneur, millionaire, billionaire, and I read about him, and he said when he was 4 years old, his mom is driving home, right? Mom made him get out of the car, and he said I was like, I don't know, half a mile from home, and said, "Go home yourself," and she drove off, and he got home. Now that probably be like social care would be around, and that's what you were thinking, Khurram, yeah. But that's resilience. Like as a 4-year, I wouldn't do that. And don't disclaimer, please don't drop your 4-year-old off anywhere away from home and expect them to come home. Please don't. It's different. It's a different world. But that tells you what it was like back then. Like if Richard Branson at 4 years of age walked home, it's not surprising he's a billionaire today. Right? It shows you his skills or his determination, his ability to think. At 4 years of age. I'm not saying he's some special guy or anything, but he's made it in the dunya level, right? This is the problem that what Shiraz is saying here, and I think what we've talked about, the temptations are leading us to a very worldly, and when I say worldly, what I actually mean is a very whimsical, a very impassioned, like you're following your desires and you're following just your indulgences. That's worldly, low. It's a low level of existence, and we forgot about the realities and the struggles,
which you forgot
will give you a lot of success, a lot of enjoyment.
People forgot how to use their brain. It's genuinely for the silliest of things you like. I mean, in the workplace with new people, these younger people coming in, they'll ask you questions. Was like, come on, did you even think about it before you asked, or did you literally just ask without thinking about? Because people do that. They'll just, instead of thinking for themselves, let me sit back a second and solve this myself. I'll just go to somebody that knows the answer. And now, don't get me wrong, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. Then come, but at least. And some of these things are really silly, and people don't like, you said, not checking a timetable, not working out, or maybe if I miss this train, I'll jump on the next train. Or if you end up somewhere lost, it's like, use your wits and use your brain to actually work it out rather than you relying on others.
Yeah, they don't come with a solution to the problem anymore.
It's just bringing problems.
That's it. They just come with a problem, but they don't come with any solutions at all, and they don't try to understand how they can solve that problem.
So there's another comment from brother Ahmed Raza. He said, it's just like the hadith that holding on to your deen will be like holding on to a hot coal. It's a sound hadith, mashallah. We need spiritual food. Yeah, I think that's where we're coming to, isn't it? If you're talking about whims and desires and lack of discipline, which you mentioned earlier, 100%. I think we need spiritual food, spiritual, energy. We just need a nourishment. You need discipline. This is spirituality, and we're lacking that today. So what's the best way to overcome the nafs ammara? That's where we've got to. So I think Ahmad's been following. Jazakallah khairan for your support in watching. Please do share, like, and subscribe to the channel and follow, so for more benefit, inshallah ta'ala. It's a big question, so I'm not really going to be able to answer that. We've had an hour as well so far. I think we're going to be wrapping it up shortly as well. An hour's a good time. I think we had a good discussion, so maybe we'll go around and have last thoughts as well with you guys. But just to maybe mention a few things to for Ahmed and he's asked, mashallah. And if you do have questions and comments, please do share like the brothers have. Thank you to those who have. Jazakumullah khairan. Self-discipline, tazkiyah as we call it, purification of the heart, is a long process. It's a lifelong process. It's a struggle that you start off when you hit puberty, you hit the real world. Again, the world we live in, young people aren't awake to that reality. They're not going to probably be awake to reality until they've probably even finished uni and then come home and then like, oh, what do I do in my life? The education system's finished. I think that's probably part of the problem. The education system doesn't teach you these things. Like you said, don't teach you how to manage money, don't teach you about certain responsibilities. At the end of the day, it's designed to run a capitalistic world. As long as you can do your job or you can do a skill that fulfills something in society, that's what education in the UK or in this world we live in wants from you. It doesn't want to empower you in any spiritual way. So for that reason, what I would say is that it starts from education. It starts about knowing what spirituality is, learning what spirituality is, knowing that you have a deficiency, because they say you can't treat an ailment, a disease, until you recognize it's there, until it's diagnosed. You can be sitting there with illness, but until you go to the doctor, till you get diagnosed, you can't start treating or getting, what medication is required. So I think we all need to reflect on ourselves and think that realize we have is without a doubt the case that we will have some deficiencies in different ways. Everyone has their weaknesses and strengths, and then to work on that and to speak to people, teachers, scholars, people of spirituality about moving forward. And the basic level, the one I actually will say for now, is practical step, if you like, for everyone, is go to a gathering of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go to a place where the name of Allah is mentioned, a Quran class. We've got Ramadan coming up. You're going to come to Taraweeh. You're going to go to the masjid a lot more, inshallah, for men and women. Please do, go to the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angels go there for dhikr, for nourishment. Their nourishment is the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dhikr being the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I would say, as we're approaching Ramadan, read more Quran or pick up the Quran a little bit more. So when you get to Ramadan, you're reading the Quran. The Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, would fast in Rajab and Sha'ban in preparation for Ramadan. So we should try and fast. Tomorrow's Monday. It's a Sunnah day. I'm sure you've all heard the joke by now. Fast, tomorrow you'll have a date at Maghrib. It's Valentine's Day. Yeah, you'll have a date for Maghrib, mashallah. To break your fast, if people don't get the joke, before we misunderstand what's being said.
Don't have a date. Don't have a date.
You won't have a date in that sense that is meant. It's called equivocation, where one word is used in two different meanings. So we won't do that to people and confuse them. But yeah, no. So that's one step I will say for now. It's a big question. But guys, any final things, Khurram, to share?
You mentioned last year in the course, I think you were asking everyone if they have a degree or what degree they have, and I said mine LLB, and you asked what is that, and I had no idea. I don't actually know what it means or what it stands for. And then you asked a few other people, and you said to them, "Well, what do you know?" And it was like silence. It was like, "Well, what do we actually know?" The LLB, A levels, what do we really know? And we're still struggling and trying to find a path. So if you get to know what actually matters, it's a very humbling experience, actually. At the age of 32, you're thinking of somebody, and then you say, "Well, what do you actually know?" And I actually don't know. You sat there in silence. So it's very humbling. I think the world is going towards so many distractions, and if you can just find yourself in that distraction and be comfortable just being just with you for a second and not having to tell everyone everything, and just trying to discover yourself, I think that would be a massive difference to your mindset. And once your mindset changes, then the opinions of others should start to fade away. Because we live in a world, and you've mentioned this, Sheikh, before as well in the classes, that science and society is telling us that religion is out of date. It's not worth your time anymore, because we're so far advanced that it doesn't matter. So we're always being pushed away. Everything's a test. And social media is the biggest test of that. That religion is out of date. To go to mosque 5 times a day is not practical anymore. It doesn't work, even though it's the most basic of things for us. So if you can find yourself to get away from that and just realize who you're a slave to, any decision you make, who's it for? And then if it is to impress someone on social media, it's just the wrong decision. If it's to impress anyone, apart from maybe those you love, maybe you want to impress your children or your spouse, that's maybe okay. But if you can work your way slowly away from that, it is a long process. We're talking this could take 10, 15 years, but eventually you should be comfortable in yourself. And once you're that, you can actually realize who you are.
Yeah. The thing is, Islam starts at home, right? You as parents, or we as parents, we're going to have to instill that Islam into our kids. And those kids that are walking away from Islam, running to the mosque, taking them to the imam, saying that, well, my kid's gone away from the fold of Islam, help them. But it's like, did you instill any Islam into the kids? If the answer is no, then that's where they've gone wrong to begin with. But yeah, instill Islam into the kids from a very young age. And then once they're old enough, obviously they can have their own friend group. And that's when it becomes a bit more difficult who your friends are. Because at the end, if you're hanging around with people that are into drugs or stuff that's a bit more dodgy, then you're going to probably be more inclined to go down that route. If you hang around with friends that are more inclined to go into the masjid, come into places like the guidance hub and so on, then you're more inclined to learn more about your deen. So it's just picking the right path and not being too influenced in this day and age.
I think it was Fahim who mentioned that it was the company he had when he was younger that really helped him to stay on the right path and not get knocked off. And he saw people in his same age group that didn't have that company and were going other ways. So I think very, very important point. Hassan, you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think one thing that always comes to my mind is when it comes to temptations is, can I say Bismillah before the action I'm about to do? So if I'm going to meet my mates who are doing drugs, I can say Bismillah, but it's not right.
It's actually very dangerous to say Bismillah in those circumstances.
Yeah.
Like when I say dangerous, I mean like blasphemous.
Yeah.
If you look at the following question has been posed, discussed amongst the scholars, that if you were to drink alcohol and you say Bismillah before you drink it, deliberately, like I'm going to drink alcohol and say Bismillah, what's the ruling on that? and many scholars have regarded that as an act of disbelief. So I don't know why that came in your mind, but if just for the sake of education of everyone, I'm not saying.
Well, it's like if, for example, people are going to meet a girl.
Yeah,
that's not right. So you can't say Bismillah and enter, and get into. You can say it, and people, I don't know if they do, but it's a thought that comes into my mind is a way of keeping me on track.
If you're doing that, keeping you on track, what's going on?
No, I mean, I'm not doing all these things. It was just a way of something that came to my mind once.
I think that it can occur. What you're suggesting there, or mentioning is it could occur, and some might feel, and because when you do bad, and like I said, it's good in a way, but it's really bad if they actually say that they know they're going to do wrong.
Yeah,
and there's a little bit of guilt within that. Like I said, that's the good part of the wrong, right? There's a guilt. The wrong is wrong. We can't ever justify that, and that little bit of guilt may produce a little bit of a, "Ya Allah, forgive me, I'm going to still do it" kind of thing, right?
No, but then that keeps you in check. Is that
it does, but that's what I'm saying. It's a good thing, but at that time, you should also learn that it's totally inappropriate to say, to do anything like think you can do something like mention the name of God or say Bismillah, and then that might lessen the calamity or the sin.
The whole point is to hopefully stop you from doing
it. Right? Now, if you're saying it to stop yourself, then hopefully you will stop.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying do it before, then do it. No. My point was, if you think you can't say it, if you think you can, like what you're about to do is wrong. Like for me, if I'm about to do something wrong, like if I'm going to do something, I'm like, oh, I can't say. I know that's
so what to do then is to learn this one instead. Astaghfirullah. Learn that one.
Yeah.
Astaghfirullah. Say that to yourself. Say, Ya Allah, help me. Say something like that. Don't say words that could be taken, different ways. I know the intention you're saying now was to help you stop, but really those words aren't really said at that stage. Words that mean that Allah help me, Ya Allah, forgive me. That is there. People probably do that. They're probably in a sin and they're thinking, Ya Allah, forgive me, whilst they're doing the sin. Who knows? That's not bad, but hopefully remembering Allah hopefully will have some impact on you.
And I get it. Is that people do make this joke these days. If I say Bismillah, the meat's okay. If I say Bismillah, I can drink this.
That's another topic. But that's let's leave that for today. And it doesn't make the meat halal or halal.
It definitely doesn't.
Bismillah over it. May Allah protect us from haram food and haram consumption. But guys, any final thoughts you want to share? I think we've had a good discussion there. There's a lot to digest for our viewers and listeners, so Allah bless you all for being there. I just want to finish on one point related to what you said, Khurram, about yourself. We've been talking about desires, temptations, and it's always about others. It was about doing something out there, and I think you hit the nail on the head where you said, if you look at yourself and you reflect over yourself and give yourself time in a way that, what am I doing here? What is bad for me? And really be critical of yourself and think about where you're going, be real with yourself and realize your shortcomings, and don't let other people cloud your decisions. I think that's, like, okay, your friends, and this is what happens, all your friends are doing something. It's temptation now to join the crowd. No, wait a minute, if everything they're doing is wrong, then no, I've got to look at myself and say I can't do wrong. Right? If all thing they're doing is causing problems and being rude to the neighbors, I can't be like that, because I've got to look at myself. And for me, and what I've been taught and my values are not that, are opposite to that. So we have to find ourselves and who we are. And I want to bring that back to the point what you were saying, is that we are Muslims, on this podcast, at least, and hopefully our listeners. And if you're not, then this is who we are. We are Muslims. We uphold values of being kind to others, of holding certain parameters, not violating other people or harming other people. One of the most foundational hadith of Islam, the hadith saying of the Prophet ﷺ, is la darara wa la dirar. There is no harming others in Islam. Wala dirar, no reciprocating harm. We're basically not allowed to harm other people. There's got to be a justification, like some kind of treatment or something like this, or sacrificing an animal kind of thing. There's got to be a purpose behind some pain or some kind of thing going on. Otherwise, we're not allowed to just for the sake of it cause harm. It's prohibited, like categorically. There's no doubt about that. So we need to be aware of a value such as, that's an example of that. And then when we live our lives and we see society and we see harm, we see somebody pushing somebody, or being rude to somebody, or damaging the property and running off, we can't stand for that. We have to detest that, in a sense. I was saying this yesterday in a talk. we hate the sin and not the sinner.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to, it's our values. Our values don't tell us to hate people and hate, an individual, the being. It tells us that the action that may emanate from a person is bad. So hate the action, detest that. But dua for the person. Ya Allah, give him good actions. If we do wrong, what do we want? Forgiveness, mercy. We don't want to say, "Oh, may I be destroyed for doing wrong."
Yeah.
We don't do that. I mean, that goes back to thinking of yourself. Because if you think of yourself and you want forgiveness and you want improvement, then actually those people doing wrong, you make dua for them. You don't say, "Oh, they're going wrong. Let them go run into the club and pub." No, you're going to say, "Ya Allah, protect them. Ya Allah, give them strength." So it goes back to yourself, Khurram, that the more you can figure out yourself and who you are and what you belong to and what your values and what integrity is to you, the more you'll be able to, first of all, adhere to it and hopefully try and stick to it. And if we don't, we're human. We are human. Hassan, saying that things happen. They will happen. And we will go back. We'll turn. That's what Tawbah is, going back to the Islam, going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning back. Tawbah. Tawbah, it means to turn, to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah give us all the strength. We may have had, as we've done with temptations, we've gone down that road. Now let's turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On that note, let's wrap up our podcast for today. So thank you to Hassan, Khurram, and Zunair, and the people behind the scenes doing this live stream and this podcast. Allah bless you all. Thank you very much. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.